Welcome in, everybody. Ready to go deep on a story you think you know. Today, King Midas, but forget the be careful what you wish for stuff. We're going beyond the surface to uncover the hidden depths of this myth, using forensics, psychology, engineering, even economics. We've got forensic reports that sound straight out of CSI, mythology, and engineering analyses that break down what happens when your entire palace is literally made of gold.
Treating it like a real incident with consequences, and trust me, it gets complicated fast.
Love it. Get ready for a wild ride.
Once upon a time, there was a wealthy king named Midas who loved gold above all else. One day, Midas did a kindness for Silenus, a companion of the god Dionysus. As a reward, Dionysus offered to grant Midas any wish he desired. Overcome with greed, Midas wished for the ability to turn everything he touched into gold. Dionysus granted the wish, albeit reluctantly. At first, Midas was overjoyed, turning objects around his palace into gold. However, he soon realized the terrible consequences of his wish when he couldn't eat or drink, as his food and wine turned to gold at his touch. The full horror of his gift became apparent when Midas hugged his beloved daughter, instantly transforming her into a golden statue. Devastated and realizing his mistake, Midas begged Dionysus to remove the golden touch. Taking pity on Midas, Dionysus instructed him to wash his hands in the Pactolus River to rinse away the golden touch. Midas did so, and the river sands turned gold while he lost his power. Having learned his lesson about the true value of life and love over material wealth, Midas returned to his kingdom a wiser and more content man.
Okay, so Midas King, gold obsession, gets a touch, boom, disaster. How did the touch work?
The science of the touch itself, was it alchemy, like atomic level change, or some crazy advanced gold plating happening?
Hold up, instant gold plating back then.
This wasn't simply a layer of gold plating. The forensic analysis indicates a complete atomic restructuring. Imagine if Midas's touch somehow rewrote the laws of physics at a fundamental level.
This is like atomic level stuff. Every atom changed. You bite into an apple, you expect, well, apple. Yeah? Nope. Solid gold through and through.
So he's not even making more gold. He's like rewriting physics with every touch.
So it's not like dunking something in gold paint. It's as if every atom in your body suddenly decided, yep, we're gold now. Gold woven into the cells. That's disturbingly efficient.
Exactly. And it wasn't limited to inanimate objects either. Imagine what happened to the food Midas tried to eat. What about the very air he breathed? This wasn't a gift. It was a rapidly spreading phenomenon with terrifying implications.
Okay, see, this is what I mean about going beyond the surface. We all hear this story as kids and think, wow, infinite gold. But the reality would have been much more complicated and a lot messier.
Yeah, let's discuss that mess, because that's where the logistical and engineering analyses really blow your mind. Think of the engineering nightmare. Gold is heavy, way denser than wood, like 19 times heavier. Your wooden beams, it's not just shiny, it's 19 times the weight. Imagine the palace trying to not collapse.
Total disaster.
His whole kingdom collapses. Buildings turning gold, collapsing.
Okay, that's a lot more interesting than it's magic, move on.
Imagine your house, your furniture, your clothes, all suddenly weighing 19 times more than they should.
You're telling me I can barely lift a gallon of milk some mornings. I can't imagine trying to make coffee in a solid gold kitchen or trying to sit on a golden couch without it crashing through the floor.
And that's just your house. Buildings crumbling, infrastructure collapsing. Remember, they didn't build structures back then to handle the density of gold. He was messing with the fundamental principles of engineering.
Even if Midas's golden touch was magically reversed, imagine the lasting effects. Think about the trauma of those who were temporarily turned into statues.
Yeah. The psychological impact alone would be enormous.
Holy.
Widespread PTSD.
Wow.
A complete breakdown of trust in leadership, maybe even a collective existential crisis after such a world-altering event.
It's not a clean slate, even with a happy ending.
You've hit on a crucial point. This wasn't just Midas's personal tragedy, it was a collective trauma for his entire kingdom. The Midas touch would lead to a complete breakdown of trust in leadership. Why? Because it demonstrates a profound disconnect between desire and consequence.
Because if your king can accidentally turn your entire world to gold, are you really going to trust them to, manage the economy, lead a war, make sound decisions? We're talking about real damage here. Imagine being one of Midas's subjects, right? One day, life is normal. The next, your crops are gold. Your house is starting to, sag under its own weight. Remember Midas's daughter?
The one he accidentally,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're talking like manslaughter charges. Kind of haunting when you think about it. And you know what hit me? The economic chaos that ensued. Nobody thinks about that.
Right. Economics 101, gold's valuable because it's rare, right? Your loaf of bread costs a king's ransom because everyone's using gold to buy stuff. Midas wouldn't just be inconvenient, he'd cause hyperinflation like the world's never seen.
Wouldn't gold become worthless if everything were made of it? Talk about crashing your own economy.
Precisely. Midas unintentionally created the ultimate example of supply and demand gone wrong. Suddenly, gold is as common as dirt, which, ironically, would make dirt the most valuable resource in the kingdom. It's a fascinating example of unintended consequences and how quickly our perception of value can be flipped on its head. Imagine if bottles of water became more valuable than diamonds overnight. That's essentially what Midas did to his own kingdom.
It's like that scene in Willy Wonka where the kid turns into a giant blueberry. At first, everyone thinks it's cool, but then you realize, oh,
Yeah.
you can't actually live like that, except with way more gold and a side of economic collapse.
Too much gold, no one's happy. Gold is valuable because it's rare, right? Make it infinite. You just broke economics.
It's almost funny, you know. A kingdom drowning in gold but unable to do anything. Trade would stop. That gold would be worthless. People hoarding normal stuff, things Midas hadn't touched. Dream come true to a nightmare. And fast.
Right.
So Midas isn't just about greed, it's about tech advancing too fast, without thinking about it.
Okay, I see that. Go on.
Right, like Midas got seduced by the gold, didn't get the consequences till too late. We do that with tech, right?
Yeah.
New things cool, but the downsides.
It's the next big thing syndrome. Benefits, yeah, but the ethics, the what ifs later on.
Exactly. Like, we need to be smarter than Midas, basically. With AI, all that, we got to have the foresight he was missing.
It's about responsibility. Not just the fun now, but the impact later.
It's like, just because you can doesn't mean you should, but on a bigger scale. We got powerful tools, got to use them right.
And that's where the real deep dive is then. Not just how the tech works, but why we want it. Our motives, our values. The tough questions.
So what I'm hearing is, Midas isn't some old story.
Centuries it's been around because it gets at that human thing, you know? We're brilliant and foolish. We love power, but using it well. That's the hard part. Shows you, never judge a book by its cover or a myth by its simplicity. There's always more there. But before we spiral too far down that rabbit hole, let's bring it back to Midas. And the ultimate question, was he a fool who got what he deserved?
Right.
Or was he a victim of circumstances beyond his control?
I mean, he did turn his own daughter into a golden statue, which isn't exactly a stellar parenting moment. But on the other hand, if a god popped up and offered you a wish, would you really stop to think about the potential downsides?
It's a debate for the ages, isn't it? But here's what I find striking. Even after making such a colossal blunder, Midas is often portrayed with a degree of sympathy. We pity him, even as we judge his actions.
I think that's because deep down, we see a part of ourselves in his mistake. That human desire for something more, something better, even if it comes at a terrible cost.
His story is a cautionary tale.
Right.
Absolutely, but it's also deeply human and relatable.
Exactly. And it's that human element that keeps the myth of King Midas so relevant, even after thousands of years. Talk about a cautionary tale with some serious implications.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder if those ancient storytellers were trying to warn us about something. Like, hey, be careful what you wish for, because the consequences can be far-reaching.
Oh, absolutely. Take environmental destruction, for example, driven by our insatiable appetite for resources. Or the ever-widening gap between the ultra-wealthy, our modern-day Midases, you could say, and everyone else. Even our relentless pursuit of technological advancement without fully understanding the potential consequences. It's all there, reflected in this ancient story.
It's like we're staring into a funhouse mirror. The reflection is distorted, exaggerated, undeniably a reflection of ourselves.
That's the power of a good myth, wouldn't you say? It shines a light on our deepest fears, desires, anxieties. And while we might not possess the ability to literally transform things into gold, we all have the power to shape the world around us for better or worse.
So what's the takeaway here?
Are we, like Midas, so fixated on our desires that we fail to consider the potential costs?
That's certainly something to ponder. And on that note, dear listeners, we'll leave you to contemplate the many layers of King Midas and his not-so-golden touch.